Good morning, all. Welcome back to my class. Today we are going to learn the rest of the lesson, A Bicycle in Good Repair. Before that, I am going to summarize the lesson. So listen. The author accepted his friend's proposal to go for a long bicycle ride. His friend came half an hour late. He examined the author's bicycle. He declared that the front wheel was unsteady and it could prove dangerous. He set about repairing the machine. He unscrewed the bearings and the bolts rolled away. They got only 16 bolts. The author put them for safety in his hat. Okay, then turn your textbook to page number 129, part 2. He then said that while he was about it, he would see to the chain for me and at once began taking off the gear case. I did try to dissuade him from that. Dissuade means discourage. I told him what an experienced friend of mine once said to me solemnly. If anything goes wrong with your gear case, sell the machine and buy a new one. It comes cheaper. He said, people talk like that who understand nothing about machines. Nothing is easier than taking off a gear case. I had to confess he was right. In less than 5 minutes, he had the gear case in 2 pieces, lying on the path and was groveling for screws. He said it was always a mystery to him the way screws disappeared. I am going to explain, so listen. Next, his friend handled the chain. He took off the gear case. The author tried to discourage him, but he could not. Once an experienced friend of him told that if there is any problem with the gear case, it is better to replace it and buy a new one. The author remembered his words. So the author warned him not to mess up with the gear case, but his friend said that nothing is as easier as taking off the gear case. The author had to admit he was right. He opened the gear case but lost the screws. He was scrolling for screws. The mischief was going on and the author was hopeless. His friend said that screw was always a mystery to him. Look at the textbook. Common sense continued to whisper to me. Stop him before he does any more mischief. You have a right to protect your own property from the ravages of a lunatic. Lunatic means mad person. Take him by the scruff of the neck and kick him out of the gate. But I am weak when it comes to hurting other people's feeling and I let him muddle on. Muddle means mix up things. He gave up looking for the rest of the screws. He said screws had a knack of turning up when you least expected them, and that now he would see to the chain. He tightened it till it would not move. Next he loosened it until it was twice as loose as it was before. Then he said, we had better think about getting the front wheel back into its place again. I held the fork open and he worried with the wheel. At the end of 10 minutes, I suggested he should hold the fork and that I should handle the wheel, and we changed places. At length we did get the thing into position, and the moment it was in position he burst out laughing. I said, what's the joke? He said, well, I am an ass. It was the first thing he had said that made me respect him. I asked him what had led him to the discovery. He said, we have forgotten the balls. I looked for my hat. It was lying topsy-turvy in the middle of the path. Topsy-turvy means upside down. He was of a cheerful disposition. He said, well, we must put back all we can find and trust to Providence. I am going to explain, so listen. The author's common sense told him to stop his friend from causing further troubles. His mind told him that he has the right to protect his own property from the damages of a mad person. But the author admits that he is weak at hurting others. His friend gave up looking for the rest of the screws. Then he tightened the chain till it would not move. He then loosened it until it became twice as loose as it was before. After that, he decided to fix the front wheel in place. The other held the fork open, but his friend could not fix the wheel in place. After 10 minutes, the other told him to change the places with him and tried to put the wheel in the right position. But his friend was laughing and admitted that he was an ass. The reason was that they had forgotten to put the balls in place. The other looked for his hat in which he had put the balls safely, but the hat lay upturned and the balls were scattered. His friend was of a cheerful nature. He said that they had to put all the balls back to it and to trust in God. Look at the textbook. We found 11. We fixed 6 on one side and 5 on the other, and half an hour later the wheel was in its place again. It need hardly be added that it really did wobble now. A child might have noticed it. He said it would do for the present. I said, "Watching you do this is of real use to me. It is not only your skill that fascinates me. It is your cheery confidence in yourself, your inexplicable hopefulness that does me good." Thus encouraged, he set to work to refix the gear case. He stood the bicycle against the house and worked from the offside. Then he stood it against a tree and worked from the on-side. Off or on-side means offside is that side of the field which the batsman is facing to receive the ball. On-side is the opposite of that. Then I held it for him, while he lay on the ground with his head between the wheels and worked at it from below, and dropped oil upon himself. Then he took it away from me and doubled himself across it till he lost his balance and slid over onto his head. I am going to explain, so listen. They could find only 11. So they fixed 6 on one side and 5 on the other, and half an hour later the wheel was put in its place again. It now began to wobble more than before. The other watched what his friend was doing. He said that his friend's skill was not fascinated him, but his cheerful confidence and mysterious hopefulness made him fascinated. He began to refix the gear case. He placed the bicycle against the house and he worked from the offside, and after some time he stood it against a tree and worked from the onside. The other held the bicycle from him. He laid down on the ground with his head between the wheels and worked. He took the bicycle from the other. He lost his balance and it slid over onto his head. Look at the textbook. Then he lost his temper and tried bullying the thing. The bicycle, I was glad to see, showed spirit, and the subsequent proceedings degenerated into little else than a rough and tumble fight between him and the machine. One moment the bicycle would be on the gravel path and he on the top of it. The next, the position would be reversed. He on the gravel path, the bicycle on him. Now he would be standing flushed with victory, the bicycle firmly fixed between his legs. But his triumph would be short-lived. But a sudden, quick movement, it would free itself and turning upon him, hit him sharply over the head with one of its handles. At 1:45, dirty and disheveled, cut and bleeding, he said, "I think that will do," and rose and wiped his brow. The bicycle looked as if it also had had enough of it. Which had received most punishment, it would have been difficult to say. I took him into the back kitchen where, so far as was possible, he cleaned himself. Then I sent him home. I am going to explain, so listen. Then he got angry and tried to punish the bicycle. It was a sort of fight between man and machine. The other was so happy because his bicycle showed some spirit. It freed itself from his hold and hit him over the head with its handle. At 1:45, the man thought that the work was done. He himself was dirty and bleeding. It was difficult to decide who had suffered more, his friend or the bicycle. The author led him to the back kitchen to clean himself. That's all for the day. Thank you.